For those of you who don't know Adam, real estate agent, investor, expert. I have personally invested a bunch with Adam as far as him being my real estate agent. I guess I've lost track how much stuff I've bought with you by now. Only sold one.
Smart man.
Smart man. Yeah, that's paid off good. Are we going left here or right?
I'd go left.
Okay. So first question, how did you get into real estate and how long have you been in the business?
So I'm a 8th generation building contractor. So I grew up in the business. Even all my buddies would go to summer camp and do fun stuff in the summer, and I worked for my dad and for my grandpa. My grandfather was a developer. He was also a real estate agent for a while. So pretty much my whole life. Then I bought my first investment property in 2010 or 2009, either 09 or 2010. And then did some commercial developing as a contractor, and then started selling real estate in 2011.
Mm-hmm. So 13 years now?
Yeah,
selling
13 years.
Nice. 13 years as a real estate agent. I read that 75% of real estate agents fail within the first year and 87% fail within the first 5. First question,
Yeah.
is that accurate? And then second, why do they fail?
Statistically, it is accurate. We get those stats from National Association of Realtors. That's our big organization that does all the stat stuff for us. So those are accurate. We have a sales team, and I do a lot of training, and a lot of the training is around doing the right activities at the right time for success. So the people on my team, I would say it's flipped.
Mm-hmm. They fail less than like the average.
Yeah, I mean,
but why is that?
85% of them are still in the business, I would say, since they joined. The average person joins the team, they're with us for 2 to 7 years, and then they decide maybe change industries or kind of go it on their own, like a lot of people do. Hey, worked here for a while, want to change it up, see if I can do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
But they've learned from myself and from the team what's necessary for success.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of those things?
Consistency is a big one. Treating it like a job. If you had a job, you would be expected to show up to work on time and work all day, and you would work 50 weeks a year.
Yeah.
And when you're at work, you'd be expected to produce. If someone's paying you $100,000 a year, you're not producing $100,000 a year worth of revenue for the company. Mm-hmm. You're producing 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times that. Otherwise, it's not worth having you around as an employee. So if you treat this sales job like you would treat a regular job, then you're going to have a lot of success.
Sure.
Right? So we're showing up, we meet every day, we do practice and role play, we do some sort of lead generation activity where you talk to people about what you do, and then you ask for the business. Mm-hmm. And then
keep your pipeline full.
Yeah.
Prospect, make phone calls, follow up. Yeah. So the mistake it sounds like people make is they think that they're starting their own business and can kind of do whatever they want to do, and they lose track of the fundamentals of what frankly keeps them doing real estate or keeps them in business.
Yeah, they see the selling sunset, they can, dress fancy and drive nice cars and look at houses. That is the byproduct of lead generation. If you don't have any clients, you don't have any houses to show, you can't afford a nice car to drive. So yeah, they think, oh yeah, I got into this for the freedom, the flexibility, kind of fill in the blank. But the reality is it's not that way. It can't be that way.
Right.
Because if you have freedom and flexibility and you never want to work, then you're going to get exactly what you got. So I think that's why the percentage of failure rate is so high. Mm-hmm. It's because people got in thinking it was something that it's not.
Right.
It's work.
Oh. Do you have cold brew here?
I do, yeah.
Can I just do like a medium iced cold brew black?
Absolutely. Anything else for you?
Yeah, one more with cream.
And then one more of those with cream, please.
Sounds good. I'll see you up at the window.
Thank you. Switching gears a little bit. Elephant in the room. Interest rates are insane right now.
And they're going up.
You knew that was coming. So if we talk about it on the investment side, and we'll get into the buying side later, right? Just like people buying a home to occupy. Mm-hmm. it's tough right now to get started as an investor unless you're in a cash position. How are people investing, or how are people getting creative and getting into real estate as an investor right now, if that's even possible?
Yeah, so house hacking, I think, is a great way to start. And what house hacking is you move into a house, and then you live there for a year, and then you move out and you turn it into a rental. The reason you want to do that, and this actually has changed as of November 11th, correct? Somewhere in there, it used to be the first house you bought, you could use an FHA loan. That's Federal Housing Administration, and you could buy single, a duplex, triplex, or a fourplex for 3.5% down, right? That's what you did.
Yeah.
And that was...
Lived in it and for a year, and yeah.
You gut it out, and then boom, you move out.
Yep.
Now you have 4 rental units.
And the mortgage pays for itself the first year, or close to, because you have 3 units worth of rent, and et cetera.
Yeah, and then you're saving the money you would have paid for the down payment on the next one. So in November of 2023, that changed. Now you can buy a multi, so you can buy a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex for 5% down as long as you occupy one of the units.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it used to be buy a fourplex with an FHA loan, 3.5% down, right? So your cash position, your cash outlay is minimal. You live in it for a year, you kind of fix it up, whatever needs to, get it stabilized, then you move out. And then now you have 4 of 4 rented, and then you go buy a single family home for 0, 3, 5% down. Live in that until you save up enough money for a down payment, move out of that, buy the next one, rinse and repeat. Until you had enough cash to where you could put 25% down on a multi.
Right.
But now you can buy 2, 3, 4 units for 5% down as long as you move into one of them and live there for a year. So as long as you can scrape up 3.5% down for your first buy, you're in. And then as long as you can scrape up 5% down, which used to be 25% down, you can continue, assuming that there's something to buy.
Right.
Because what we have right now is we have high interest rates, but then we also have low inventory. So there's just not a lot of choices at the moment, but we're hoping that some of that inventory starts to kick loose. There's a lot of people that are sitting on property they want to sell, waiting for rates to change.
Yeah.
But rates may or may not change. So at some point they're just going to decide, hey, I need to sell because I need to sell, and stop trying to time the market. And then hopefully we see some more inventory for people.
When is the best time to buy? Right. And I'm not talking about just like right now, but like in general, when's the best time to buy, or when's the best time to sell in real estate? So
my number one rule is you buy when you need to buy, and you sell when you need to sell. I'm sure you play the stock market.
A little bit.
Right, you see the stock go down, you're like, okay, now's the time to buy, and then it continues to plummet. And you're like, I gotta pull out of this thing, I'm gonna lose all my investment. You sell, because you're trying to time the market, and then the stock shoots up.
Right.
Or you're like, hey, the stock's way up, I'm gonna sell, now's a good time to sell, and then it continues rocketing up.
Right.
Like Nvidia stock, or some of these that you're like, okay, it's not gonna go higher, and then it does. So that's the fallacy with trying to time the market, is you can't. Hindsight's 20/20, so you'll know, hey, 6 months ago was a great time to buy. Okay, and then in 6 months, you may think that now is a good time to buy. So if you're a buyer in general in the fall, right? So we go October, November, December, January. That's typically when the list price to the sales price ratio is the most favorable for a buyer.
Interesting.
So you can get a little bit better deal when it's getting dark at 4:30. And it's raining and it's cold. The people that have their houses or their real estate for sale, at that point, they're more motivated. Like, hey, if you write me a reasonable offer, we got a shot at getting this thing done. For sellers, the best time to list is March through July. So for us in Oregon, school goes back in September. As soon as school goes back in, buyer demand decreases as kids are in school. They're a lot less likely to make a move. Where if it's spring, summer, it's like, hey, we can move now and be settled in before school starts. So buyers, if you're trying to get a little better deal, do it in the fall, right? You're buying when other people aren't.
But don't wait like to time the right year, thinking the interest rates are going to be where they're at. As a real estate investor yourself, how are you overcoming the challenges personally with your investments the way that interest rates are right now?
So it's called the Solomon paradox, and that Solomon was one of the wisest men to have ever lived, and he gave great advice, and he did a lot of stupid things. So the Solomon paradox is essentially take your own advice, because most wise people give great advice, but they don't listen to themselves. So I take my own advice. So when I tell people the best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago, because it'd be this nice, big, healthy tree in your yard, the second best time is today.
Right.
Because at some point, it will be 30 years ago. So I buy when I can buy, and I continue to. So because there's low inventory, I actually have been buying land, developing it, and building subdivisions, because it's easier for me to build 18 than
Card, please.
All right, I'll pass this on over.
trying to buy 18 individually.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Have a good day.
You too.
Thanks.
So essentially what I'm hearing is just figure out a way to do it.
Yeah, I want to be accumulating. A lot of people understand like the stock market, so I relate it to the stock market. Dollar cost averaging. When the market's going down, you consistently buy. When the market's going up, you consistently buy. So don't let your long-term goals be affected by short-term circumstances. So I have unit goals that I want to hit every year in adding rental units to my portfolio. So if the market's good, if the market's bad, if it's going sideways, I have long-term goals, and I don't let short-term interest rates affect that.
Yeah.
Because I know at some point, if rates come down, I will be able to refinance and my property values will skyrocket.
Yeah.
If interest rates go down, I can buy more stuff. But yeah, it's all about that long-term. So when I see a good deal, and if I have the cash or can find the cash to do it, I'm going to do it. Action is the middle finger to doubt. And the longer you wait, the longer you'll wait. At some point, you just have to do it.
Yeah. So would you buy a piece of property right now that produced a negative annual return?
My general rule of thumb is if it cash flows $1 a month, buy it. And if it doesn't cash flow, don't buy it. And that's simply the thought of how many things can I afford to own that make $100 a month? The answer is, well, as many as I can collect.
Right.
But I'm limited to the number of things I can own that lose $100 a month.
Right.
Now, in that same vein, though, we are willing to contribute, I don't know, $400 to $10,000 a month to your 401k, your IRA, your future savings account.
Mm-hmm.
So your negative cash flow on your investments, hoping someday you can sell them.
Right.
All at once or slowly to get money later.
Right.
So why are we not okay feeding this retirement account? So, yes, I have been buying things that don't financially make sense as far as cash flow goes right now.
Yeah.
Or that have negative amortization. Negative leverage. And negative leverage is simply when the overall return is lower than your interest rate. Right. So I buy something that has a 6% return and the interest rate 7%. That's technically negative leverage. But then if you zoom out, you look at all the other tax benefits and economic benefits to owning real estate, and
Net
you
worth.
go, okay, so I lose $300 a month on this. So I'm just going to pay $300 a month less to the Wall Street casino in my 401k or my IRA, right? Like, talk about not making any sense.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to limit my losses, let's say I'm investing $1,000 a month in the stock market. I'm just going to invest $600 a month in the stock market, $400 into my private investment fund, if you want to call it. And then you think about it going up in value. Even the market has been terribly slow. The average piece of real estate went up between 4 and 6% last year. So it goes up in value. You're paying debt off. You are now able to write the interest off on the loan as a business expense. And if you want to, you can do depreciation, which is where you can divide the purchase price over a set number of years that the IRS gives us, either 27.5 or 35. Mm-hmm. And then you can decrease your tax liability. So even if you're losing a few hundred a month, if you look at...
Of cash flow,
yeah. So rent's $1,000, total expenses $1,400.
Yep.
So that's one aspect, right? Mm-hmm. But then if you look out, you're saving in the taxes. That's taxes that you're not paying on the depreciation, the interest, and the darn thing's going up in value. So your net worth is growing. Mm-hmm. Your debt's going down and the property's going up in value, and that gap is what you need to measure, not necessarily the monthly cash flow. Eventually it will cash flow. Rents go up over time.
Yep. You can refi it when rates are less ugly later.
Yeah, which then will increase your cash flow opportunity. And then you could always sell that asset, take the money and buy a bigger asset or a better asset.
Right.
But if you never would have bought that first house, you would have been significantly behind the 8 ball in starting your investment journey. The longer you waited to get in to the water, the longer it would take you to get good at surfing. Like I think of the real estate market as the ocean. Okay, so if you're on the shore, if the ocean rises, it'll eventually drown you. Or if it goes out to sea, it's too far to get into. But if you're in a boat in the water, right? You bought real estate, you're in the boat. Whatever the market does, you're in the boat. So the rising market is going to raise all ships. The lowering market is going to lower all ships, but you're in the ocean, and now you can start getting more boats. But if you're on the shore and the market continues to go up, which it has, the dream of home ownership or the dream of owning investment properties is getting further and further away. So you're like, okay, 10 years ago, I could have done something with 10,000 down. Now I need 40,000 down. And guess what? In a few years, you're going to need 60. And you're like, how am I ever going to save this much money? Well, you don't. The rich people get rich because they buy assets that go up in value over time. And then they can sell one of those assets and get a big chunk of cash. It's not from working your job. Your job is going to get you started, but the assets you buy are really what create the wealth.
Right.
You're never going to outwork what the market's doing.
Yeah. What does it cost somebody to buy a house right now? And then like what fees are there that most people don't know that frankly a bad real estate agent wouldn't communicate to you and it'd catch you off guard at closing day?
Yeah. What? Yeah. So you've got earnest money. That is part of your down payment. That's usually 1%. So we can use a $500,000 house. That way, if you're buying a $250,000, it's cut in half. If you're buying $1 million house, it's doubled.
Sure.
So you've got your earnest money, which is 1%. That's part of your down payment. And your down payment, let's call it 5%. So $500,000 house, your down payment's 25 G's. Your home inspection is going to be $500. Your appraisal is going to be $1,000. Okay. And then depending on the deal you work with your lender and the interest rate you get, you can call that like another $10,000 in lender and title fees. Could be more, could be less, and
these are closing costs.
Those are closing costs, yeah.
Right, and those can be negotiated, right, in a deal that the seller can pay for those. And
yeah, that's a good point. So you really could get into a house, and I have people that do this. Let's say a VA loan, it's a 0 down loan. They get the seller to pay all of their lender fees and all of their title and escrow fees. And they're out $1,000 earnest money. So they have $1,000 and they own a house. That's
$500,000 house.
If you do a VA loan.
Now it's important to note that your mortgage would be a little scary, right? So that would have to pencil month to month. But yeah, so in all reality, you could technically own a home for a few hundred to a few $1,000s out of pocket if the deal was structured the right way. Yep,
you get the seller to pay your closing costs. The seller also pays the realtor fees now. If you pay attention to what's happening in the real estate world, that may be changing where a buyer at some point may have to pay their agent. We'll see. That's kind of TBD with the Department of Justice. But yeah, I mean, your average deal, if you're doing normal, you can go 0% down conventional financing. You could do 3% down. My favorite's 5. It's kind of a sweet spot with monthly costs. So on the high end, if you pay all your own closing costs, $40,000, you're in a pretty good position. And if you're cash restricted, you could be out of pocket a few $1,000s.
One of my last questions about real estate and purchasing and investing in real estate is probably what everybody wants to know. This buzz question that I see come up all the time, right? And the question is, can I invest in real estate with no money? And the answer is basically yes.
Yeah, so legitimately yesterday, one of the guys that works for me comes in and says, hey, can I put multiple houses, multiple addresses on one sales agreement? I said, yeah, you would do the one address and then you just in an addendum or whatever, what other addresses you're buying, right? As long as it's the same seller and the same buyer, sure, I could buy 10 houses from you on one contract. He's like, okay, cool. I said, why? What are you doing? This sounds interesting. He says, well, I got this guy that wants to sell these 10 units. I think it's a couple duplexes, a triplex, and a couple single families. And he wants to carry the paper. So he's going to be the bank. All he needs is $250,000 down. So it's $1 million purchase of 10 units, which is $100,000 per unit, which is great. averages.
Let me know if he doesn't want it.
I know. No, I won't. I'll buy it. So my guy has this property tied up. The seller's going to finance it. Now all he needs to do is find 250. And I said, go find a couple partners.
Yeah.
So he's going to, and those partners will take a percentage of ownership, right? But he ties up $1 million worth of real estate and is going to go find a couple partners, each to put $125,000 down, and then he will be a part owner of $1 million worth of real estate, and he'll have zero down.
Because he found the deal.
He found the deal, and the deal is unique enough to where it's going to attract some people. We look at investments as several different ways, and one of them is what's the cost per unit. Like average cost per unit, $150,000 to $200,000. So I know immediately, hey, cost per unit makes sense.
Yep.
Now let's look at the income. Okay, the income covers the mortgage.
Yep.
And then you present that to an investor, to a partner, to a family member, whoever, and say, hey, I have this deal. I've got the deal. That's my contribution.
Yep.
Without me, this deal doesn't exist. Are you in for percentage of ownership? And there you have it. You just bought 10 rentals with nothing out of pocket. I know people that they hammer the phones all day. All they do is call, and they send out mailers, and then people respond. Hey, I'm getting a divorce. I need a quick sale. Okay, so my house is worth $200. I'll sell it to you for $150 if you close in 2 weeks.
Right.
And then that person's called a wholesaler. They call me. They call everyone they know and say, hey, you want a house that's worth $200 for $175, and then I'll buy the contract for $175. The wholesaler makes $25,000 and the seller gets their $150.
And then if they're smart, they go invest that $25 into another piece of real estate.
And they can parlay that.
Yeah.
So it's really about tying up the deal, and if it's a decent deal, you're gonna find the money.
Right.
That's a little bit non-traditional, right? You have to be comfortable. You have to have some experience to know, or not even experience. You just have to be comfortable and understand what you're doing. Because you're never going to convince anyone to give you money if you're clueless.
Right.
So be a student of the game. There's a lot of books. There's a lot of podcasts. There's a lot of YouTube stuff out there that you could watch and get an idea, and then, meet with some guys that know what they're doing. And you could be on your merry way. It is work, though.
Yeah.
You're going to have to work. It's not going to be, I bought it for no down. It was totally cake. I'm getting rich. I'm not doing anything. Like make no mistake. There's going to be a volume or a level of involvement that's necessary.
Sure. 401k, crypto, or real estate, and why?
Real estate.
Why? Why not crypto?
Crypto. So a very wise, one of my buddy's grandfathers told me this a long time ago. Stick to what you know. I understand real estate. I invest in the stock market and I invest in crypto, but I only invest in the stock market and in crypto money I'm okay never seeing again. Because I don't understand it, right?
Yeah.
I understand real estate. I understand all aspects of it. So for me, it is extremely safe. Now, to someone that knows nothing about real estate and doesn't understand the real estate market, real estate could be very risky to them. So the protection against risk is knowledge. So if you know something really well, so there's guys that know crypto, right? They understand it, they're in it, they move faster than everybody, right? They don't get the rug pulled like Cheddar Coin, okay? That's not risky for them. Yeah. But that's not me. So I stick with what I know.
Yeah.
And the best investment on earth is earth.
Yeah, they're not making any more earth.
If it burns down, it's insured. You can drive by it. It'll never be worth zero.
Yeah.
But you could buy stock. Look up F45. I own an F45 gym, so I bought a bunch of F45 stock. It went from $15 to a penny.
That's not funny.
Gone. Gone. I'm like,
I can laugh at that because you have plenty of real estate.
I'm like, what the hell? So I sold it to take for a tax advantage in 2023.
At that point, yeah.
My real estate will never go to a penny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the stock, the CEO made some mistakes. The way they did an IPO got questioned by the SEC, and their stock went from $15 to a penny in 6 months or 12 months.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So welcome to coffee counseling. I'm sorry, buddy.
And I own one of the gyms, and the gym does great, but their stock hasn't performed very well.
Right.
So then I can't help but think, that's why I call it the Wall Street Casino. you're gambling because there's all of these external factors at play that you don't understand and that you don't have any control over.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's bad news throughout the world and the stock market goes up.
Yeah.
There's good news, stock market goes down. There's good news, stock market goes up. Right. So I leave that to the guys that do the stock market, and I stick with what I know.
Yeah.
It's simple. It's going to be around for a long time. It's something I can pass along to my kids. It cash flows, all the reasons we talked about.
Yeah. Do you wait for the perfect situation to make a business move, or do you just trust your gut and go for it?
You can tilt the odds in your favor and create good timing.
How would you do that?
Delaying gratification. So I drive a pickup truck. My wife drives a Tahoe. We live in a normal house. I mean, in some ways we could have a lot, I could have a Lambo and we could have the giant house.
Yes.
But I've always been a fan of living on the low end of the curve. So just because I make more money, just because we make more money, doesn't mean that we need to spend more.
Right.
It's called lifestyle creep.
Right.
So, I got a raise, buy a nice car. I got a raise, buy a bigger house. And then you're always living at what I would call like your financial red line. We spend a very small percentage of our income. I collect the money and then I store the money. And when you have money stored, when an opportunity comes up, the timing is right because I've deferred gratification. I haven't bought all the cool things and looked like the cool guy. I have stored that money in preparation for what the future holds, and I don't even know what it holds. So the opportunity arises, lo and behold, my low mortgage payment has allowed me to amass this cash, and now I can make a move and I have to take on a bunch of debt or get myself in a risky position. It's like, hey, okay, I can take this cash, not a loan, and go invest in this business or buy this business.
I noticed you use the word store instead of save.
Yes.
So why would somebody store their money versus save their money?
Storage is ready for deployment. Like I cringe sometimes, like, yeah, just put it in a 12-month CD. I'm like, well, if an opportunity comes up, you can't access that money. You're paying fees. And the CD rate's 5.5%. You can stick it in a checking account for 4.5%. Right now, rates are stupid. So yeah, it's storage is just like a mindset shift. It is saved, right? But it's allocated for future investments.
Saving would be like, hey, I have this money, I'm gonna save it so I'm safe, right? And we could go all day long about what our boy Grant teaches, which is cash is trash.
Yeah.
Right, it means nothing, get rid of it. Doesn't mean anything unless it's doing something for you. That, I would suppose that's why you would store it. Because saving would indicate that you're not actually going to use it.
It's more of a passive approach, and it's a good idea to hold your money accountable and hold your time accountable. Like, hey, I didn't save this money to look at it. You can put a gold coin in your mouth and suck on it all day, and it's not going to give you any nutrition, right? But you could take that gold coin and buy something that's going to keep you alive.
Right.
So the money is only as good as what the money can do for you. And I store money in real estate too. I own building lots. Then if I need cash, I can sell those lots, get my cash. I have a handful of rental properties that I own outright. I just paid cash for. I can always refinance or sell those to deploy more cash. So I'm ready for whatever business opportunity or real estate opportunity comes up. And every month I don't deploy that cash, there's more into storage.
So while you're waiting, ideally the majority of your net worth is actually doing something for you.
Yeah.
Not depreciating in a bank.
And I will admit, I have more cash in interest-bearing savings account right now because they pay 5%.
Right.
And some of these real estate investments are paying 6%. And I'm like, okay, I'd rather make 5 doing nothing than deploy this cash into an asset that it's tied up and it's only making a little bit more. And there's always headaches associated with it.
Right.
So I'm always weighing that. But the timing aspect of making a move in business really has to do with your financial situation typically. Now, if you're maxed out and you don't have any more energy to give to something, then you need to wait until you're in a good spot where you can devote what's necessary to it for success. But assuming that you've got the energy and you have the time, then your time just comes down to money. And so if I don't, for some reason, have the funds, then the timing's not right and I'm not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if I like what it is, then we'll rock and roll. Like the gym's a great example. Buddy calls me up, says, hey, I think we should open one of these bad dogs. I said, okay. And we found a piece of property. We bought the property. We bought the franchise. We opened up for business and we're rocking and rolling. But the timing was right because we had the resources available. We had the time and we had the money. You know, if we needed to save up for it, then I would have said no. But it was like, okay, well, I've got my money in storage and it doesn't go anywhere. So we bought a piece of real estate and then we bought a business. And that made the timing right.